Speedrun breakdown. Dump, 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 da, dump, dump, dump. Discover, route, grind, and achieve. So, Speedrun Breakdown is a brand of speedrun tutorial videos, a series aimed at boosting runner count, lessen intimidation, improve documentation and speedrunning progress, and explore helping build the community, actually acknowledging acknowledge that grassroots isn't progressive in mindset, right? These videos would be are borrowing observations from the best runs at GDQs, where commentary is king, not actually run quality, right? And you've seen this before, like for example, you've seen that you think about the best runs at GDQs. It's not the runs that actually got world record. I mean, sure, you can recall that Graph got world record in Pilot Wing 64 at SGDQ 2013, but you've only heard of it. You didn't even watch the run, right? You don't even give a shit. No, the runs that that were the best at a GDQ were, for example, Cosmo's 80% run for Ocarina of Time, where he like went in depth in history over the progression of Ocarina of Time with its discoveries while playing the game. Like, the commentaries what brought you in. The GDQs grow and work because, unlike 99% of the speedrunning community streams, it's all dumbed down for masses to consume and understand, and it lures new runners by the appeal. So, just tutorial videos? I mean, nigga, that shit been done already, though, right? Right? Alright, son, I already know where you're getting at right there. Try stream big. Okay, alright, I see you. No, that's why I'm already in there. I already know I'm gonna get shit on for that. I'm prepared for that. So just tutorial videos, nigga, that shit been done already. I understand your frustration there. Fair point. Allow me to elaborate on the history of speedrun tutorials. So this is where it's gonna get a little bit juicy now, okay? So you have Generation 1 with the Singlimic 64 tutorial videos, where it's just game feed only, and maybe like during tutorial commentary. I can't recall, he deleted them now, unfortunately, so I can't leave them to show them to you. But he had some like 120-star tutorial videos where it was like, you know, here's how to do 100 coin TikTok clock, 100 coin Jolly Roger Bay or whatever. He had a couple of videos up there, like way back in 2012 when he was working on them. But he unfortunately they didn't really pick on or whatever. They didn't catch on or whatnot. So move on here. Generation 2, you can add a controller cam and maybe a display input to make following what you're doing a little bit easier, right? No? You still with me right now? So we're gonna keep going here. Generation 3, you can add this is where it gets a little creative here, okay? So you can take tutorial videos, you can add a real-time HUD. As you're doing the run, people can see how many stars, flowers, and eggs you collected. This could change based off of what game you're doing. A big example here would be like if someone did like a tutorial video for Odin Sphere. You know, the inventory system there is really, really important, and I feel like you definitely would want to have an always present representation of what's going on in your HUD. RPGs, you'd want to definitely know what you're carrying on you at all time. That way, because there's a lot of memorization. You people forget that you're grinding and you're repeating a shit ton or whatever. But like, for anyone newer, I find the biggest hurdle is going to be just the sheer ton of memorization going in here, right? So you keep going further though. So I'm just getting started here. So now you can add separate gameplay and speedrun tech via icons, audio cue, visual cues, things specific to each game, perfect fluttering, intro skip, camera manipulation, bonus skip, anti-lag strats, right? You can add these icons and it gives people, rather than making it all these things abstract and, you know, putting more work on them to follow, you can categorize it all together with tech icons, right? Right? So go even further here now though, and the icons could appear as the action happens, ultimately. And then you can go further here and separate the route strat options as icons. Area skipped, when it's relevant to know what's being skipped. I can't tell you how often here people hop into a new game and they don't even know why they're skipping what they're skipping. I'm looking at there's a certain Yoshi runner, I won't say his name, but there's a guy who didn't even know like why we skip what we skip in level 1, 2 for a long time. But I won't say any names though. So you know, area skipped. Don't do this. I feel it's important if you're failing and you don't know why you're failing what I'm describing. I feel it's important to briefly cover why. What to not do, which is a very big thing for what makes the 5-4 skip work, is by knowing what to not do throughout the entire 5-4 skip to make the bats line up and do all that stuff for you here. When relevant, backup strats. There's a shit ton of these. This is really, really important in Yoshi's Island, particularly. So you'd see a shit ton of backup strats explained after a route would be shown. You're noticing here the color codes, by the way. You see that yellow is the speedrun tech, and then red is like either things you skip or things you don't do. There's like a word for that. I'm forgetting it. Backup strats are cool in blue, and then alternative strat, clawing. I couldn't think of a cool one right away, so I thought, you know, clawing's pretty cool. That's an alternative thing, right? Alternative strategies, whenever there's not one blatantly, obviously better one, and then alternative route, when again, there's also not one obvious better route to take. There's like two options here. You can do one A or B, whatever you prefer. Icons appear as the action happens, right? So now Gen 4, you take the icons I just brought up here, and they serve as chapters in your runs tutorials. So, where I saw before in the earlier slide, it was just, you know, I'm in level 1-1, I'm at the start, come at me, bro. Now, there's the perfect flutter icon at the bottom there, because it's about to come up next in the very next screen, if it was like in motion or whatever, right? Go even further here, Gen 5, this is where it gets really cool here. Gen 5, you add a timeline with cue of the tech icons moving in real time. So you would have like your egg shuffle, and then you'd have your visual cue, and then the anti-lag shot or whatever. You know, you can have them moving in the timeline sequentially, and then it makes it really easy for a new person to follow what's going on, no matter how fucking chaotic it is, because you're gonna be pausing and explaining it all the time anyway, right? So that was where it gets really, really big. And then Gen 6, take it out of the ghetto, add functionable logistics and production value. So now you go really hard here. You have the game feed with like spec size I'm working on, controller cam with spec size I'm working on, your active HUD, your HUD area. You would show off the you know, you see here too now, also enhanced it where it's on a per room basis. Main room, cave room, main room part 2, whatever, and it's gonna reinforce knowing the star count, flower count, and red coin count on a per room basis, which is what establishes safety numbers in regards to Yoshi Island specifically. But I mean, you can also apply it to other games too. Your tech icon line with all your icons, they come in the actual order that it's happening here. You can see this is all I didn't add the 1-1 game here, but this is the actual order that shit happens. Speed tech wise in Yoshi's Island. The primary icon would be a little bit bigger than the smaller ones, and it's a little bit bigger. Continue going forward here though. And then whenever you would pause to explain things, when you pause to explain things, you make the explained icon bigger, remove the other ones away, and then while you're, you know, having your brief monologue explaining what it is, you accompany that with text as well. You make it, you know, you give it options to however people want to learn, right? You try to take it, and rather than make it like how every other speedrun's done, you make it as friendly and multiple options for consuming all the knowledge being thrown at you. Really, the idea here is like you have a bunch of options, that way you're not overwhelming people with just a textbook of shit. Like, that's number one thing. I'm sure you've seen before at GDQs in the past where it's like someone's commentating on the run, and there's like so much shit being thrown at you that you're like, I can't keep up, dude. You're being, you know, ZTRT when you do this double back wing airing flip and you do a full charge shot. Whenever you have like a 3 pixel deficit on the whatever, it's too much, right? And you're taken out of that ultimately. So so the scene here is like the typical like scene I would have. Mind you, I understand it's incredibly ugly. It's not meant to be pretty yet. I did not make it pretty. I'll make it pretty. Don't worry. It's gonna look really, really good, no doubt. I'm just going over the logistics of it here now before I add pretty into it later on. Explained tech icon, perfect flutter, summary, and whatnot. You see that the HUD it would be all dynamic, just like how any stream I do has dynamic scenes to boost intimacy altogether. This would also have dynamic scenes going into it as well. So it would definitely remain static. It would always be changing. So while here the HUD's there, the HUD would disappear during the monologue. You don't need to know that explicitly to make the best use of the screen real estate. This is to make it mobile viewing friendly in that regard. You can't have like a pile of text if you're on like an iPhone 4 and your screen fucking sucks ass or whatever, right? You continue going here. Now, whenever I would explain something such as like the perfect fluttering or whatever, you would let's say I want to cut away from the current level and I want to briefly go to a level where it's more ideal to explain this in a more obvious, blunt manner. Okay, cool. Then I would use a picture-in-picture. Any idea is open. There's no rule on how to teach. It's whatever you feel is most effective, right? So take the primary game feed, pause it, throw it to the side here, and then put the new one up on top. keep the momentum going, keep people following, you know, you'll understand that a little bit better when I get to a little further when I'm explaining it here. But yeah, you know, pause the game, go to your next one, keep going. Okay, so let's continue then. The goal isn't to make the most comprehensive tutorial. I think that'll be achieved regardless, but to make would-be currently not runners into runners. This is not to make runners convert to other games. This is meant to make people who don't run at all want to hop in, make it less intimidating. Which means not throwing a dictionary worth of shit at them at once. Swift, fast, high-paced, to-the-point tutorials. What is the goal of SRB? Ideally, when people fresh from a GDQ go to YouTube, which they'll do long before they go to ZSR or SRL, they encounter SRB videos and actually give it a shot. That's the one thing. I want to feel more invited than entertained, honestly. Exchanging information quicker across